Well, hello friends and welcome to Johto. Today I want to attempt a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon HeartGold using only the fighting type. Back in Generation 1 when I first started playing Pokemon, the fighting type was very lackluster, with not very good stab options, very little type coverage, and outclassed in every single way by the psychic type. It was never good to have a fighting type on your team. As I've muddled through the generations of Pokemon, I have learned that the fighting type is great, and the games have balanced out the different types throughout the generations. Playing here in Generation 4 with some of the old Gen 1 Pokemon is going to be super fun, and one of my favorite things about the fighting type is where a lot of other types are based on powers or elemental moves like grass and fire, or the psychic type. Fighting type has two fists, and they're going to show you how to use them. In Generation 3, 4, and 5, the Fire Starter evolves into a fighting type in its middle evolution. We are playing a Generation 4 game, but it is a remake of Gen 2, so the Fire Starter doesn't have the fighting type, and of course none of the other Pokemon do either. So our first official fighting type Pokemon couldn't be found unless we were using the Pokewalker where we could get our hands on a Machop. Otherwise we'd have to wait until we get to Azalea and Headbutt to get a Heracross. Rather than doing any and all of that, I have of course moved the starters around with the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to give ourselves a Machop, which would be the technical first encounter, and now we can use this thing at the start and through the run. And taking a look at our starter here, we nicknamed it Johnny. It has a quirky neutral nature, and this one has the Guts ability. I think we need that to actually beat Falkner. A no-guard Machop would be awesome to play around with, but alas, we will deal with Johnny for now. Now, there is a name theme. Can you guys guess it? Pokemon is a pretty weird game. We just barge into this house. I don't know what these two were doing. We definitely should have knocked first, and then Mr. Pokemon proceeds to give me an egg. Is this you and Professor Oak's egg? Maybe I shouldn't ask questions that I really don't want the answers to. After the early game tutorial stuff, we do head back to the lab to give Professor Elm Professor Oak's egg, I guess. Anyway, the cops try to implicate us in a robbery. We were given this Pokemon, and Professor Elm just sits there thinking, who knows what is really going through his mind. Nonetheless, at this point, we do get to nickname our rival, which we nickname him Algorithm because we are trying to beat the algorithm both in-game and in real life. Now, the in-game algorithm is going to be relatively easy. The only difficult battle is in Azalea. The real-life algorithm, however, is much more difficult, and I need your help to defeat it. How can you help me defeat it, you may ask? Well, it is very simple. You can like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and of course share this video with anybody you deem fit. I want to thank you guys once again for the continued support. As I said last week, I know I sound like a broken record sometimes saying that, but it is really going great. You guys are amazing. Continued comments, continued likes. Everything is great, and it is so overwhelming sometimes to get into the comments section, but I love each and every minute of it. And of course, I do try to answer all of the comments. Now, we are playing a Johto run here, so now that we're done dealing with Professor Elm, it's time to go talk to our mom, and as I've said in every run before this one, make her save money. It is going to make a huge difference later on. The Sprout Tower is a mandatory dungeon for us in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It was not mandatory in the original Gold and Silver games. Climbing this Sprout Tower is going to be very nice because we are going to fight trainers with Bellsprouts. I know that's weird to see, but that's how it is. Bellsprouts give attack EVs, and one of two reasons that we're playing Heart Gold is because we can run into wild Bellsprouts to continue grinding out some attack EVs, though I think the training that we're going to do here in the Sprout Tower is going to be more than enough to at least fulfill our level cap. Now we need to prep for Falkner. There are a couple of things that we need to do before we go battle the gym trainer. First and foremost is getting our hands on an Oranberry, which can be acquired by catching wild Sentrants on Route 29. The next thing that we need to do is activate Johnny's Guts ability. Because we're playing Heart Gold, we don't have wild Weedles, we only have Caterpies, but this bug catcher here, Wade, has 3 Caterpies and a Weedle. So saving this battle until just before we decide to take on Faulkner was a choice that we made because with the Weedle we can use Leers or focus energies and just wait for it to poison us with Poison Sting. Once we get poisoned, then we can finish off the battle and make our way, of course, to Faulkner. It does take a few turns before we get poisoned, but eventually we do, and now our attack is doubled. Now, going into the battle with Faulkner, I'm not sure that if we had no guard, would we be able to defeat Faulkner? The Guts doubles our attack, and Pidgey and Pidgeotto being part normal type means they take neutral damage from fighting types. This means we can actually one-shot the Pidgey, and again, I think we could do this if we had no guard, but it would be a lot more RNG intensive, and we would have to go through multiple attempts. This is a more surefire way of beating Faulkner with our fighting types. Now, Pidgeotto, unfortunately, is going to outspeed us, and this is why we wanted that Orange Berry in our pocket. Gust is going to do a substantial amount of damage. Stack that with the Poison Chip damage, and we get to exactly half health, activating our Orange Berry. Provided we don't get hit with a critical hit Gust, things will be fine. Now, Karate Chop takes Pidgeotto low. We can two-shot this Pokemon. Faulkner also, though, can opt to go for Roost. Roost makes Pidgeotto lose its fighting type for this turn, meaning we hit this Pokemon with a super effective stab, guts boosted Karate Chop to one-shot it and win our first badge. The rally event in Japan from January 29th to February 28th of 2010 gave us some awesome Pokemon. One of those is the Croagunk named Adam that has a Brave plus attack and minus speed nature. This Pokemon is much needed. This is going to help us soak up a little bit of experience as we make our way to Azalea. Technically, there are no mandatory battles from Violet to Azalea, not until you get to the Slowpoke well, but we still don't want Johnny overleveling, and we wipe because of a mistake like overleveling. Of course, with Faulkner defeated, we get the HM for Rock Smash, which we taught to Adam, and now we can sit at the Ruins of Alph, smashing rocks until we find ourselves some shards. There are 4 different color shards, red, yellow, blue, and green, that we can trade for various berries to the berry guy outside of the Poke Center in Violet City. This is a very nice way to get early access to things like orange berries, citrus berries, lum berries, chesto berries, so on and so forth. So we're going to spend a little bit of time grinding here in the early game. We can also get Old Ambers and the Helix Fossil, I believe, as well. Not that we need it. Now in the Pokemon Center, just before entering Union Cave, we can talk to this fisherman who wants to give me his rod. I don't like the way he said that, but nonetheless, the old rod is a much needed item this early in the game. Because backtracking to Route 30 and fishing in this pond right here, we can actually fish up a Poliwag. Now technically it's not a fighting type, but eventually it does turn into a Poliwrath, so Rome here is added to the team. It has a modest plus special attack and minus attack nature, which is perfect for a future special attacker, and the only special attacker that's going to be on the team. There have been comments on the videos where people don't like the explanation stuff, and people have said I over-explain stuff, and I'm getting ready to do that. So if you don't like that, just skip ahead. You can actually access the Ilex Forest before taking on Bugsy and before doing the events of the Slowpoke well. Now, unfortunately, the Farfetch'd guy is not here. We can't get our hands on Cut, and even if we did, we couldn't get past that tree without Bugsy's badge. The trigger for all of this, of course, is doing the Slowpoke well stuff, defeating Proton, then coming over here to defeat our rival just before entering Ilex Forest, and then we can get our hands on Cut. But there again, we can't use it until we have the badge. Our next encounter is locked behind Headbutt, which is taught via a move tutor just on the other side of that tree in Ilex Forest. So, what can we do? Well, we can just go through the storyline, beat Bugsy, and figure it out after the fact, or we could catch a Slowpoke in the Slowpoke well, power grind it to level 21 where it learns Headbutt naturally, and then get our hands on that coveted Heracross encounter. Again, I don't think I need to do all of that. I think we're going to be able to defeat Bugsy relatively easy with Johnny, and the fact that we got the Rock Tomb TM in the Union Cave. So, rather than doing unnecessary grinding, we're just going to continue through the storyline until we can actually use Cut outside of battle, then we'll do a little bit of backtracking. Now, whilst getting Johnny to the level cap, the trainer to my right has a Paris that we activated its Effect Spore ability, poisoning us, activating our Guts ability just before taking on Bugsy. The Scyther is very scary with Technician, but luckily for us it doesn't have stab super effective wing attack, and it opts to go for Leer turn 1. That's a little bit concerning, but a quad super effective Rock Tomb with the Guts activated is enough to actually one-shot the Scyther, taking out Bugsy's biggest threat. His Metapod does go down to a single Rock Tomb as well. The Kakuna comes out and we miss a Rock Tomb, so we have to take a Poison Sting. The Shell Bell is keeping us healthy, and a Rock Tomb connects, taking it out, winning us a very, very easy second gym badge. Now, typically the rival battle before entering the Ilex Forest is a little bit scary. However, we got a decent little team here. I lead out Adam against his Ghastly. Ghastly does outspeed and go for Curse. That is annoying. It cuts its own HP and puts a curse on us, but we can take out the Ghastly with a feint attack. As the Croconaw comes in, we do lose a quarter of our health, so we swap into Johnny to shake off the curse, and we get hit with a Scary Face. The lowered speed is annoying as we get outsped and hit with a water gun for a little bit of chip, and then Karate Chop looks like it's going to do about a 4-shot to KO. We get hit with another water gun down to 33 HP, and I opt to go for Focus Energy because of the high critical hit chance of Karate Chop. Another Scary Face is annoying, and Karate Chop takes Croconaw down to yellow health. The Shell Bell is keeping us healthy, which is very nice. A third Scary Face drops our speed to the lowest it could possibly be, and unfortunately Karate Chop takes Croconaw down to low red health. We get hit with another water gun down to 18 HP before firing off a Karate Chop that finally gets a critical hit that did not matter. As the Zubat comes out, it whiffs a Supersonic, and then we go for Rock Tomb that connects and one-shots it. This finally gets us access to Headbutt, and our next encounter, a Heracross that we nicknamed Iggy. It has a gentle plus special defense and minus defense nature. That's perfectly fine with me, and it has the Guts ability. This Pokemon is phenomenal. At the level cap of level 19, Iggy learns the stab move Brick Break, which is going to be very critical in defeating the next gym leader Whitney and her normal type Pokemon. There, of course, are a couple of different ways that we can get status conditions on our Pokemon. One of those is heading back to Ilex Forest and taking out Wild Paris. Here we get poisoned, which is perfect because now we can make our way back to the gym, heal up with a potion before taking on Whitney, and then take her out with some Guts-boosted stab super effective Brick Breaks. At least that's the plan. Now, when taking on leader Whitney, most people's focus is the Miltank in the back, but the Clefairy that leads out should never be counted out. It is a pretty monstrous Pokemon with Metronome doing who knows what. Luckily, Iggy does outspeed the Clefairy and can fire off that Brick Break that blasts this thing out of utter existence in a single hit. As the Miltank comes out, we do have to worry about Attract and getting flinched from Stomp. Whitney opts to go for Attract turn 1, and of course we stay immobilized by Love. We get hurt with a couple of rounds of poison, and then Stomp takes us all the way down to 30 HP. We actually break through the infatuation and fire off that Guts-boosted stab super effective Brick Break that is base 75 power and enough to one-shot the Miltank. That is very, very impressive. Getting access to Rome's evolution Poliwrath requires a Water Stone. There are a couple of different ways that we can do this pre-Elite Four. The first of which is, of course, the Pokeathlon Dome, and probably the easier way. The other way we can do is Fisherman Tully on Route 42. Upon defeating him, we'll ask for our phone number, and then we have a random chance for him to call us and give us a Water Stone. We're going to spend the time to do the grind and get some points here in the Pokeathlon Dome and just go ahead and buy one so we can get that aforementioned Poliwrath. Now we find ourselves in Ecruteak, and there is a ton of stuff to do. First and foremost, we meet Bill. This doesn't really matter in this run as there is no fighting type evolution. We can get the HM for Surf, which is a great stab option for Rome when we finally evolve it into a Poliwrath. Next to Mount Mortar, we can find the TM for Shadow Claw, which is going to be vital to defeating the Ghost-type gym leader Morty. And since we're just outside of Mount Mortar, I should show this off. We can traverse the mountain and make our way to the other side of Route 42, where we will find another encounter. The whole reason that we were playing HeartGold in the first place is for this encounter. It is a HeartGold exclusive only. I've seen a few comments on other videos of Nuzlocks where people think you can't get to this side of Route 42 without using Surf, so I wanted to show this off. And now we are going to get our next encounter. Our encounter, of course, is a Mankey that we name Zatch. It has a relaxed plus defense and minus speed nature. Mankey will give us a full team of 6 provided everybody stays alive by the time we reach the Elite 4, and is one of the major reasons we decided to play Heart Gold instead of Soul Silver. With the level cap of 25, we can actually get Romay to that level, and it evolves into a beastly Poliwhirl. Not quite a viable encounter just yet. However, if we feed it the Water Stone that we got from the Pokeathlon Dome, we can of course evolve it into a Poliwrath, finally making this thing a viable encounter on the team and bringing our team to a total of 5 Pokemon. The rival battle in the Burn Tower is not as dangerous as the one we did in Azalea. We've got a little bit better of a team with a little bit better moveset, so things should go pretty decent. We lead Johnny against the Ghastly, and once again the Ghastly does go for Curse, which is annoying, but Payback takes out the Ghastly. We do lose a little bit of health, and out comes Zubat. I pivot into Zatch on a Supersonic, which is perfectly fine because we're going to swap back into Johnny. We do get hit with a wing attack on the swap in that would have taken us out if it had crit, but we go unpunished and connect with a Rock Tomb to take out the Zubat. This brings out his Croconaw. For whatever reason, this thing really wants to lower my speed. We fire off a Karate Chop doing about a third, and then we heal up a little bit with Shell Bell. Another Scary Face, because it doesn't have the speed advantage yet. It does, I'm being facetious. Revenge takes it to low red health. A third round of Scary Face for Algo throwing the battle, and one more Revenge takes out the Croconaw. This just leaves his newest Pokemon, Magnemite, who whiffs a Supersonic, and we take out with a stab super effective Revenge. Very nice. With access to the TM for Shadow Claw and Iggy's sheer power, we're going to be able to muscle our way through Morty. He does have an immunity to fighting type moves, and we can be hit with ghost type moves. I always forget that, but Shadow Claw is great. We outspeed in one shot the lead Ghastly. Haunter then comes out and is outsped in one shot with Shadow Claw as well. The biggest threat on his team is out next, the Gengar. Of course, it outspeeds us and puts us to sleep with Hypnosis. But we were prepared for that with a held Lumberry, shaking off the sleep, and then firing off a super effective Shadow Claw that actually one-shots without the boost from Guts. His last Haunter comes out and of course is outsped in one shot with Shadow Claw like the Haunter before it, and that was a very easy 4th gym badge. After the battle with Morty, we do a little bit of training on our way to Olivine, and we have an evolution with our starter, Johnny, evolving into a Machoke. Very nice bulk added here. This, of course, brings us to the Lighthouse storyline stuff, where Jasmine asks us to go get some potions for Ampharos. Anything for you, my love. On our way to Cianwood, we have another evolution, with Zatch evolving into a Primeape. I really do love this Pokemon. I'm glad we get to use it. Taking on Chuck and his fighting type Pokemon, I had a couple of different options and thoughts going into this battle. The TM for Aerial Ace cannot be found until after we get access to Waterfall and Mount Mortar. Iggy learns Aerial Ace via level up, but he's already taken out 2 gyms back to back. Adam's been on the team for a long time, and unfortunately won't see an evolution until level 37. At level 38, Adam learns Poison Jab, so we won't let it evolve till level 38 anyway, and I wanted to see if this Pokemon could do anything because it's just been an experience sponge thus far. The Primeape goes down to half with a couple of stab rock smashes. We are getting hit with rock slides in retaliation. We do get down to half health and flinched, which is a little bit annoying, but I'm trying to go for revenge to take this Pokemon out because we are outsped. Rock Slide takes us to 22 HP before we do finally fire off that stab revenge, taking out the Primeape. The biggest reason I led with Adam in this battle, though, is not just to see what it can do, it's because we're going to trick the AI. As the Poliwrath comes out, it goes for Surf, and our Dry Skin heals us up. Rock Smash does pitiful damage, but does get the defense drop, and then Poliwrath continues to try to use Surf. Another Rock Smash takes Poliwrath just above half health, and it goes for Surf again, fully healing us up. Rock Smash then drops Poliwrath low, getting another defense drop and activating its Citrus Berry. Unfortunately, the AI wises up and goes for Hypnosis, but fortunately we were prepared for that with a Lumberry, and we wake up instantly firing off another Rock Smash to low red health. Chuck then goes for a Hyper Potion. We fire off a critical hit Rock Smash to low yellow health, and then Poliwrath goes back to using Surf. So a Revenge takes out the Poliwrath, and that was a very weird but easy 5th gym badge. And we make our way back to the Olivine Lighthouse, where we can get the secret potion to Jasmine. She can heal up the Ampharos and head back to the gym. Fortunately for her, our sights are set on Mahogany Town and Price as the 6th gym leader because the way the level caps work here in HeartGold and Soul Silver. And since we're at the Lake of Rage doing the Lake of Rage stuff, we can get our hands on the Choice Specs item, which is great for Romay. And we get access to the TM for Hidden Power, which Romay happens to have a Hidden Power Psychic with a base damage of 69. Nice. My favorite part of any HeartGold Soul Silver run is watching Lance use Hyper Beam on a human being. That is absolutely and utterly insane. Now the Team Rocket hideout stuff I think is supposed to be done before or after you take on Morty, judging by the levels of these Pokemon. Romay is absolutely a monster with Choice Specs and Stab Surf, or Choice Specs and Hidden Power Psychic. Either way, Romay has been destroying all of Team Rocket's Pokemon, and I just wanted to show that off a little bit. Price and his ice types are up next, and he leads with a Seal that is not an ice type. So what I've done is led with Zatch, and I've taught Zatch the Natural Gift TM. Every Pokemon can learn that can learn TMs. We have a held Pecha Berry for an electric type attack, and we can actually one-shot the Seal with a super effective move. This brings out the Dugong, who is part ice type, so it takes super effective damage from Karate Chop. Unfortunately, Karate Chop has low base damage, so we don't one-shot and we tank an Aurora Beam to the face. Luckily, it doesn't get the attack drop, so we can fire off another Karate Chop, taking out the Dugong. As the Piloswine comes out, and yes, I said Piloswine because somebody corrected me in the comment section before, we fire off a Karate Chop doing just over half. It heals up with a Citrus Berry and then sets up the Hail. We fire off one more Karate Chop that gets the KO. That leaves Piloswine on a sliver, never mind, and then it fires off a Blizzard that takes us to 21 HP. The Hail chip damage brings us down to 16 HP, and Price uses a Hyper Potion. I know I can two-shot this Pokemon. I know that the chip damage is 5 ticks of health, so I stay in and go for a Karate Chop, sitting at 11 HP, and then one more to take out the Piloswine. We immediately head to Olivine to take on Jasmine. I've done 0 training. I have a Water-type Pokemon with Stab Surf and the Choice Specs. Magnemite comes out, and Romay is out first. A Choice Specs boosted Stab Surf one-shots the first Magnemite, the second one comes out and falls the exact same way, and her last Pokemon, of course, is Steelix. It has a very high base defense, the highest in the game, but its special defense leaves a lot to be desired, and a Stab super effective Choice Specs boosted Surf one-shots it. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'll say it every time. The Rocket outfit with any of these Pokemon by your side looks absolutely badass. I wish we could stay in this outfit, but unfortunately we do have to let it go very, very soon, but I'll enjoy it whilst I have it. I know there's a ROM hack where you can play as Rocket, or part of Team Rocket rather, moving up through the ranks. It is a Fire Red game. It's absolutely awesome, but you don't get the follow Pokemon and it's Gen 3 based. This would be so cool just to see a Pokemon game like this, where we just run around like this, do the events as normal, but with this clothing instead of our normal suit. In the basement of the Rocket hideout, we have another battle with Algo, and his team is quite stacked, but I have a secret weapon. Leading with Adam was just a ruse. I have him up front doing some switch training, and I swap into Romay on an Air Cutter. A super effective Ice Beam takes out the Golbat. Magnemite comes out and goes down just like Jasmine's to a Stab Surf. Haunter comes out and it too falls to a Stab Surf. Feraligatr is then out after we gain a level. This one I go for Focus Blast, and it hits because we have a held wide lens instead of the Choice Specs. After Thrash damage, we take it out with a Hidden Power Psychic, and this just leaves his Sneasel that does outspeed us and get off a feint attack for some chip, but Focus Blast actually connects and is quad super effective, one-shotting. And after gaining a level to level 38 and learning the Poison Jab move, I go ahead and allow Adam to evolve into a Toxicroak. Very nice. I then trade my Machoke off and bring it back for an evolution itself, getting this thing to a beastly Machamp. Much needed evolution and bulk added to the team all the way around. This brings us to Blackthorn, and with access to Blackthorn, we get the move Reminderer and the move Deleter. We can finally delete Rock Smash off of Adam, which we've had since the beginning of the game. You have to be very selective in the moves you teach your Pokemon because it takes a very long time to delete them, and I've held this move for so long. Typically, when taking on Claire, I'm uneasy because this battle can be a bit difficult. Her Kingdra in the back is very, very scary. Fortunately, this time I have a plan and I've got a decently bulky team leading Adam. Adam's sole purpose, of course, is to soak up the Intimidate from the Gyarados and then pivot into Zatch. We get hit with a Dragon Rage on the swap-in, which is the only move Gyarados can use for a cool 40 damage, and then we fire off a quad super effective natural gift with a Help Pecha Berry that one-shots the Gyarados. The first of 2 Dragonairs come out, and I stay in with Zatch, hitting a cross chop for a one-shot. That was pretty nice. As the Kingdra comes out, I know this thing can kill me from the health I'm at, so I swap into Adam on a Hydro Pump that is rendered useless because of our Dry Skin ability. And the Agave Berry is fired off from Natural Gift, doing super effective Dragon-type damage, dropping Kingdra below half health before its Citrus Berry activates, pulling it back up over half. Another useless Hydro Pump and Poison Jab then takes Kingdra to low red health. A Hyper Potion is a bit annoying, but we fire off another Poison Jab that takes Kingdra to half and gets the poison. Kingdra then goes for Hydro Pump, which again is really weird. The AI is definitely messed up, and we can take it out with one more Poison Jab. Her last Dragonair comes in. I stay in because I know this thing typically goes for Thunder Wave, and I fire off Poison Jab that takes it to a Sliver. We then get paralyzed from that aforementioned Thunder Wave, and I know Claire has a full restore, so I swap in Romay as Claire goes for a full restore, and then I one-shot the Dragonair with a Choice Spec super effective Ice Beam. This gives us access to Waterfall, and we can finally traverse Mount Mortar to get our last encounter, a Tyrogue named Colonel Chi that has a Careful plus special defense and minus special attack in nature with the Steadfast ability. Amazing. With a little bit of training, we can evolve Colonel Chi into a Hitmonchan. This is the most versatile of the Hitmons, in my opinion, in this game. I know a lot of people love Hitmontop, and I do as well, but this Pokemon is going to get the most bang for my buck. Heading to Ecruteak, we have to take on the Kimono Girls, which is 5 evolutions back to back to back to back to back. The lead Umbreon goes down to a stab super effective close combat, but the Espeon that is next is very scary. I've done some training, however I forgot to put the Choice Scarf on Iggy, so we get outsped and hit with a nasty Psychic that would have one-shot with a crit. We one-shot with Shadow Claw, which is perfectly fine, and the rest of the evolutions are going to be very easy, so let's move on. Just before leaving Victory Road and making our way to the plateau, we have another battle with Algo. We are severely over level compared to his team. We do get outsped with a little bit of chip from Feint Attack, but a Focus Blast connects, knocking out the Sneasel. A Disable is perfectly fine, and a Stab Surf takes out the Kadabra. Golbat comes out, and we fire off a super effective Ice Beam that leaves it on a Sliver, but gets the freeze, so one more takes it out. As the Magneton comes out, this is where things get a little dicey because I fire off a Surf that doesn't one-shot. Thunder Wave is annoying. Supersonic is even more annoying, and after hurting myself in confusion, I decide to swap out into Iggy. Iggy gets hit with a Spark that paralyzes the first turn, a Miss Supersonic, and we take it out with a Brick Break. Haunter is then out next, a Shadow Ball because we're outsped, and then a Shadow Claw takes it out. For Alligator is last out, so I just stay in, tank the Slash, and fire off a close combat, and that is the last time we are going to see Algo. And here is the team all leveled up, ready to take on the Elite Four. Iggy the Heracross with close combat, Aerial Ace, Brick Break, and Shadow Claw. Colonel Chi the Hitmonchan with Drain Punch, Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, and Fire Punch. Zatch the Primeape with Cross Chop, Natural Gift, Aerial Ace, and U-Turn. Johnny, our starter, the Machamp, with Cross Chop, Earthquake, Payback, and Rock Tomb. Adam, the Toxicroak, with Revenge, Feint Attack, Poison Jab, and Natural Gift. And rounding out the team is Romay, the Poliwrath, with Surf, Ice Beam, Hidden Power, and Focus Blast. Now, first up for the Elite Four is Will and his Psychic types. This is a little bit scary going into this battle because his Pokemon do have super effective moves. However, this time I did equip the Choice Scarf so we can outspeed his Pokemon. We're pre-burned so that we activate Guts, and Shadow Claw is going to be able to one-shot all of his Pokemon. The first Xatu goes down, the second one comes out and falls to a super effective Guts-boosted Shadow Claw. Jinx comes out and is one shot from a Shadow Claw as well. The critical hit did not matter. Slowbro is then fourth out, and it too falls to a single Shadow Claw. That crit actually may have mattered. His last Pokemon is Executor, once again outsped and one shot with a super effective Shadow Claw. Now you may think I'm leading Rome against the battle with Koga here because of our Hidden Power Psychic. However, Hidden Power Psychic at super effective damage is a base 103 power move, where Stab Surf is actually base 142 damage. So we're going to go with Choice Specs boosted Stab Surf to one-shot the Ariados and do some damage. The biggest reason I led with Rome is not because we had a super effective move, it's because the Crobat is going to be out next, and Rome is one of the few Pokemon that can actually tank a couple of moves. Crobat outspeeds us to go for a double team, and then we fire off that Stab Surf that unfortunately doesn't get the KO, leaving Crobat on a sliver. After the Citrus Berry heal, we tank a Wing Attack doing significant damage, and then another Surf connects, knocking out the Crobat. Very nice. Venomoth then comes out next, which is another huge threat on Koga's team with super effective Psychics, but it opts to go for Toxic that misses, and we one-shot with Surf. His Fortress comes out next, so I swap into Colonel Chi on Toxic Spikes, which doesn't matter. A quad super effective Choice Band boosted Fire Punch takes out the Fortress, and his last Pokemon is Muck. We fire off another Fire Punch that does just over half, and then Screech misses. The heal up from Black Sludge does not matter because we take it out with one more Fire Punch. Bruno is up next, and a fellow fighting type enthusiast. Against his Hitmontop, I'm leading Adam. The reason that I was leading with Adam in this battle is because we have Revenge, which is negative priority, and Hitmontop has Counter, which apparently has more negative priority. Does that make sense? Because it goes for Counter, and counters our Revenge, which does significant damage, but luckily for us, Adam actually holds on with 34 HP. So since we outspeed, I just fire off a Poison Jab. Even if it was going for Counter, no big deal, we knock out the Hitmontop. Onix is then next out, a great fighting type Pokemon that we take out with a quad super effective water type natural gift with a held Chesto Berry. Hitmonlee then comes out and I need a swap, so I bring in Zatch on a missed high jump kick that takes Hitmonlee down to half. We then outspeed and then take it out with an Aerial Ace from the TM we got in Mount Mortar. Machamp comes out next and I stay in going for Aerial Ace that does right at half. Unfortunately, with the heal up from the Citrus Berry and a Cross Chop that takes us to 17 HP, I've got to swap Zatch out. We almost lost him there. Iggy comes in on another Cross Chop that we tank much, much better, even after the burn damage sitting at 73 HP before we fire off an Aerial Ace that is Guts boosted to take out the Machamp. His last Pokemon, of course, is Hitmonchan, but it is outsped in one shot with another super effective Aerial Ace. Karen and her dark types are last for the Elite Four, and you would figure against a fighting type team we would have a great matchup. She doesn't have a team full of dark types, however. We're going to have a little bit of trouble in this battle. A stab super effective cross chop from Johnny does connect and is enough to one-shot the Umbreon with the Guts boost, despite that thing being an absolute tank. We do have a held wide lens for better accuracy as well. The Murkrow comes out next and does outspeed us to hit a Pluck, and it does nasty damage, down to 70 HP before we fire off a Cross Chop, taking the Murkrow out, albeit a critical hit. Don't think that mattered. Next out, of course, is Gengar that misses a Focus Blast because I decide to stay in, and I go for Payback. I figured the Focus Blast wouldn't do that much damage, and we could one-shot, which we do anyway. We're sitting at 32 HP after the burn damage as the Houndoom comes out, so I swap into Rome to tank the Flamethrower. That, of course, gets the burn. Houndoom outspeeds us to go for Nasty Plot, and we fire off that stab, super effective Yada Yada Surf that takes out the Houndoom, and Vileplume is last out. We can't stay in, of course, so I swap into Colonel Chi on a Petal Dance that gets a crit down to 34 HP. Luckily, we outspeed and can fire off that choice band super effective fire punch to one-shot it, and we've had some close calls getting to Lance. The Deathless run up until this point was absolutely amazing, but this is where our luck definitely runs out. I know that there is a sacrifice that is needed in this battle no matter how I look at it. I can't come up with any better of a plan. Johnny goes in to tank the Intimidate, and then it is a swap into Colonel Chi on a waterfall that does significant damage, and if it had crit would have taken us out. No matter, a quad super effective choice band Thunder Punch takes out the Gyarados. We actually outspeed the Charizard that comes out next, and we one-shot it with the aforementioned Thunder Punch. This baits out the next Pokemon that is the scariest one on Lance's flying type team, Aerodactyl. As it comes out, there is nothing I can do with Colonel Chi, so I must swap and I need a sacrifice. Zatch comes in, the hero that he is, takes the aerial ace, and falls. This allows us to bring Adam in, and provided we don't get hit with a critical hit, we can tank an aerial ace, which we do, sitting at 31 HP, and then can fire off that revenge that gets a critical hit that does not matter, one-shotting the Aerodactyl. His Ace Dragonite then comes in, and we fire off a Yachi Berry boosted natural gift that takes Dragonite low, activating its Citrus Berry, but unfortunately that was Adam's last act as we get decimated by a beastly Fire Blast, taking Adam out. That sacrifice also was not in vain, because now we can bring Colonel Chi back in. Most of you thought I was probably going for Romay, but Romay is outsped. Colonel Chi is not, and we can knock out the subsequent Dragonites with an Ice Punch apiece. The Ace Dragonite goes down to a single Ice Punch, and both Dragonites fall to that quad super effective, Choice Band boosted, Iron Fist boosted Ice Punch. That was a wild ride getting us through the Elite Four, and our team did amazing. Unfortunately, we had to make a couple of sacrifices that never happen very easy. I always want to do these runs deathless, and that is the run defeated technically, but I know that if I didn't do the Kanto side of things, you guys would complain a lot. And maybe I shouldn't do the Kanto portion of things because the comments are good for the algorithm. Nonetheless, that is enough yakking. I know you guys can tell by how much time is left in the video that we do the Kanto portion of this game, so without further ado, let's jump into the post-game. The first thing that we must do in the post-game, of course, is drag our teammates' lifeless corpses from New Bark to Cherry Grove, where we can deposit them in their final resting place, the Fallen Box. These two Pokemon did not die in vain, and their sacrifice will be remembered, unlike Janus in the last run. Before heading off to Kanto, I do want to stop in the Battle Frontier and do a little bit of grinding here. There are some really good TMs that we can get our hands on. The Flame Orb and Toxic Orb would probably be great. Another Earthquake TM. Of course, there are move tutors that can teach things like the elemental punches to our Pokemon, so there's a lot of grinding that needs to happen at this point in the game. Now, when we make it to Kanto, of course, we can easily come back to this area, but we might as well do this before we head off to Kanto, so we have everything prepared and can run through that region quickly. We need to stop in and talk to Professor Oak in Olivine to upgrade our Pokedex to the National Dex. Without doing this, we can't use the Hoenn sounds and Sinnoh sounds with our radio to catch Hoenn and Sinnoh Pokemon, which we have a couple encounters we can actually get our hands on before we head to Kanto. With the newly acquired Hoenn sounds via the radio on Wednesdays, in most caves we can get our hands on a Makuhita. We went to the Dark Cave and got one named Mac. It has a Brave plus attack and minus speed nature. And with a fair bit of training under our belt, Mac finally evolves into a Makuhita, and this is a nice addition to the team before heading into Kanto. We could technically get a full team before heading over to Kanto. On Thursdays, using the Sinnoh sounds in the Burn Tower or Sprout Tower, we could get a Meditite. We could head to the Safari Zone and do a bunch of grinding to get our hands on a Riolu or Shroomish. We've done a ton of grinding in the Battle Tower and getting Mac to a Makuhita, so I'm a little burned out of grinding and would rather do some storyline progression before we sit down for another grind session. I also don't want to use the Sinnoh Pokemon, as I just used those not too long ago in a run of Pokemon Platinum. I do want to get my hands on a Breloom, but I will wait to do some headbutting of the trees in Viridian Forest, which is going to take a little bit of time, and we'll sit down and do that grind later. Right now, as I said, storyline. Once again, there is always a wave of nostalgia as we cross this bridge, and we are going to take on the Kanto gym leaders that are very, very easy. I am going to show all of the gym battles, but we're going to speed them up because they are very, very easy. Our ultimate goal, of course, is defeating Red. I've also seen a lot of Nuzlockers that come into Kanto, they set that level cap at level 53, and then they just go ham. There is technically hard level caps at each gym leader, with Janine being level 50, which is why you see that on the screen. I know that other people don't do that. They run through the Kanto region as they see fit. It's their run. I'm not here to nitpick, but I'm going to stick to the hard level caps. So after getting our hands on Psychic from Mr. Psychic, we're going to make our way to Fuchsia and take on Janine. With the added damage from Psychic versus the Hidden Power Psychic, we should be able to do substantial damage to her Pokemon. Still not quite one-shotting the Crobat, but it was a range as you see there after the full restore. Ariados is going to go down to a single Psychic. Her Venomoth is a little bit scary because it too doesn't go down to a single Psychic, and it does outspeed us with that double team. Again, it was a range, so we get hit with a Psychic to 70 HP before we take this thing out. We do have the choice specs equipped, so some of this was a little bit surprising, but the rest of her team stood no chances. The Ariados goes down, and the Weezing doesn't have very good special defense, so it is one shot. Surge's level cap is 53. Johnny has super effective Earthquakes, and I equipped the Choice Scarf so that it outspeeds most of his Pokemon. Raichu is outsped in one shot. The Electrode still outspeeds us because that Pokemon is insanely fast. Luckily, the Electabuzz is outsped so it doesn't set up the screens in one shot. Again, Electrode is going to outspeed us. We get hit with a Charge Beam, which is perfectly fine, doing a little bit of chip damage. We do gain a level here in the middle of the battle, which is also fine. Magneton is quad weak to Earthquake and goes down to a single one. Now, Misty's team is a little bit hard to play around because Thunder Punch will one-shot the Golduck. The crit did not matter, but Quagsire is immune. I'm locked in because of the Choice Band, so I swap into Mac at his debut battle on a Rain Dance. A Brick Break takes Quagsire down to half. The Amnesia doesn't matter because one more Brick Break will take it out. The Lapras is third out for Misty, and as you can see, I do a little bit of decision making here. I'm looking up Starmie's moveset to see which Pokemon I really want to swap into, and ultimately I decide Colonel Chi, who gets hit with an Ice Beam. We then hit this thing with a Thunder Punch, doing a significant amount of damage down to a Sliver. It misses Sing, and now we have it in a Heal Lock. Full Restore, Thunder Punch back down to Red. Full Restore, Thunder Punch back down to Red. No more healing items. Taken out with another Thunder Punch. The Starmie then comes out and does not have Stab Psychic moves, opts to go for Confuse Ray. We break through in one shot with a Thunder Punch. We then spend over 30 minutes in Viridian Forest headbutting trees before we finally find a Shroomish named Bamaram. It has a naughty plus attack and minus special defense nature. It has the Poison Heal ability, and this is a monstrous addition to the team. That is, of course, after we evolve it into a Breloom where it gains the fighting type, making it a viable encounter on the team, and this is the team that we are going to take to Red. Hopefully everybody can make it through. Brock is going to be an absolute joke. Babaram has quad super effective stab seed bombs. We're pre-poisoned to heal ourselves. If we get into danger, we do have the Toxic Orb as well. I put the Choice Band on for this battle just to add insult to injury as we one-shot the entirety of his team. The only thing his Pokemon can actually do is protect stall us, but that's not going to work very well as the Omastar is the only one that tries it, and the second one fails and we win. Iggy learns Stab super effective Mega Horn at the level cap, and with a held wide lens, we hopefully don't miss too many of these. Espeon goes down after a Calm Mind. Mr. Mime is outsped in one shot with a Mega Horn. Alakazam sets up a Reflect. That doesn't matter, we would have one shot, but the critical hit ensures that. Erica is next for our Gym Leader Challenge, and I opt to go for Mac. I had many options here, but Ice Punch and Choice Band is a surefire victory. Victory Bell does hit us with a nasty Leaf Storm down to 100 HP, but it's perfectly fine as we're one-shotting and not getting sapped from the Leech Seed that was set up turn 1. Blossom goes down to an Ice Punch as well, and this was a very easy battle because Tangela goes down to a super effective Ice Punch as well. Now, what can really be said about Blaine? Quad super effective Stab Surfs take out Magcargo. Magmar is actually outsped and taken out with a super effective Surf as well. Rapidash does outspeed us and goes for Bounce. Bounce does a lot more damage than I thought it would, but we were safe even from a crit, and we take it out with a Surf. Leader Blue is typically very difficult, but I've got a team that can actually counter his very nicely. A quad super effective Megahorn takes out the Executor. Pidgeot comes out next, but we went back to the Battle Frontier to teach Stone Edge to one-shot it. Held Wide Lens, of course, helping us not miss these moves. A swap into Romeo on a Flare Blitz is perfectly fine. A Surf then takes out the Arcanine. Stab super effective. You know what I mean. Next out is the Machamp with no guard. This thing is dangerous and I stay in. I have the Wise Glasses instead of the Choice Specs. Psychic does it one shot and the Paralyze from Thunder Punch is a bit annoying. That was also very risky. So I swap into Babaram on an Earthquake that we tank very well. After the Poison, we Seed Bomb it for the KO. Gyarados is going to be baited out next, so we can't stay in, but we soak up the Intimidate nonetheless. This brings Colonel Chi in on a Dragon Dance that is concerning, but we still outspeed in one shot with that quad super effective Thunder Punch. This just leaves his last Pokemon Rhydon, so we pivot back into Babaram, who tanks another Stab Earthquake very well. We're never in range of a KO, and then a quad super effective Seed Bomb takes it out. Our hard work, dedication, and excessive grinding culminates on the top of Mount Silver to take on the ultimate champion, Red. Now I'm going to speed up this battle because it is very long, but his team is relatively easy to deal with. Johnny's out first with the Choice Scarf merely to set up the Sun, and Volt Tackle, if it had crit, would have taken Johnny out. Again, we were only there to set up the Sun to get rid of the Hail, so we swap in Iggy on a Volt Tackle that takes us to 15 HP. The chip damage from that then forces Red to use a full restore, and an Earthquake takes out the Pikachu, and that is raw power because I am holding the Wide Lens for the Charizard that comes out next, with the quad super effective Stone Edge for the one shot. This then baits in the Lapras third. Lapras is going to go down to a Stab super effective close combat very nicely. Fourth out for Red is going to be his Snorlax, that it too falls to the close combat like the Lapras before it. This just leaves his last two Pokemon, Blastoise and Venusaur. On the Blastoise, we're too low of health and I don't want to lose Iggy, so I swap into Mac on a Flash Cannon that does pitiful damage. Blastoise misses his next Flash Cannon and Thunder Punch takes it low. We're now in a heal lock, full restore Thunder Punch to red health, full restore Thunder Punch to red health. I love it when that happens. A Blizzard takes us down to 187 HP before we take it out with one more Thunder Punch. We are locked in because of the Choice Band, so I swap into Colonel Chi. Gets hit with a Sludge Bomb on the swap in, doing a decent amount of damage, and then we fire off a Fire Punch to red health. Sludge Bomb takes us to 23 HP, full restore, and then back-to-back Fire Punches to take out the Venusaur, and we did the end part deathless. 2 total deaths in this entire run. Absolutely amazing. This team was great, the Pokemon were great, and being able to throw in the Hoenn Pokemon at the very end was a nice little touch. Otherwise, we wouldn't have really seen these Pokemon. I know we did have Adam, the Toxicroak, a Sinnoh Pokemon, through most of the run, but again, it was mostly an experience sponge. It had a couple of key places. As I said, this run was 10 tons of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you know the routine. Leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing if you've made it this far. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for coming out each and every week, and I will see you on the next one.